Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Films and Stuff. I'm the very humble Ethan. I'm joined by the very enthusiastic Pete.
But equally humble.
Equally humble. Pete, announce it. What do we have on tap this week?
Alrighty, this week we are going to talk about the whole season, but specifically the finale for Special Ops Lioness on Paramount Plus.
It is created by Taylor Sheridan, the Yellowstone creator. The cast of this spy thriller series is like, wow. Should we say wow, or is it a little bit less than wow?
I'd say it's a little surprising. Good, but Nicole Kidman and Zoe Saldana, not two people you'd expect to see together.
Morgan Freeman, phenomenal cameo. Jill Wagner plays Bobby. I didn't know this. Special shout out to my sister. Apparently, Jill Wagner is a staple on the Lifetime Christmas special circuit.
That's hilarious.
You know those Lifetime channels where they've got right? It's always like two people, small town, fall in love around Christmas, ice skating, hot cocoa, and so forth. Apparently, Jill Wagner, who in this show is Bobby, she's got a pretty butch look, right? She's got kind of like some half haircut, buzz cut. If you look at her photo on IMDb and you look at her bio, she is like the staple of the love interest on the Lifetime channel, all those different Christmas and holiday shows.
That is hilarious because this is like the polar opposite of that.
Yeah. And newcomer, someone I have immediately fallen in love with, Stephanie Noor, right? Who plays Aaliyah.
Yeah, that's right.
And Michael Kelly from House of Cards.
And from Jack Ryan.
He will never be out of work, right? As long as they need a government official kind of staffer / aide, he has got that role locked up.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Just like Morgan Freeman's got his bread and butter. Man, Michael Kelly, he's just got a license to print money. Anything based in Washington, D.C., it's definitely got his name written all over it somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So without further ado, Lioness has come to a conclusion. Do you think there's going to be a season 2?
I do.
I do as well because, first of all, it's Taylor Sheridan. Secondly, I think it ended on a good note that definitely leads itself to a second season. But if you look at the critical reviews or the audience scores on Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, it's been much more...
middling.
Yeah, middling is the right way to say it, Which surprises me a little bit because I have to say, at first this show to me started off as a very typical America-centric kind of industrial complex puff piece. But by the end, I thought it was a little bit more nuanced than that. And I started to really see some differences that kind of set this apart from some of the other spy thriller series that we've seen.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem. I think the problem was that it started off as an incredibly generic, postmodern, Middle Eastern military thriller.
Yeah. It reminded me of 13 Hours. They were guarding the Benghazi diplomatic mission.
That's right.
Yeah?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
It reminded me a lot like that, right? Everyone's kind of strapped up and camouflage gear, but at the same time, they're not really military. They're kind of like contractors because they've got their hats on backwards and kind of drinking beer and kind of using off-color language, right?
It was like that scene in the A-Team movie.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of the military, you have the private military contractors, you have the special forces team who can kind of do whatever the hell they want because they've got the green light to do whatever they want because they're such a successful team. It was exactly the same. And you're absolutely right. It felt like a down the middle average show that had, in fairness, a relatively unique entry point, which is to say we're a special ops team. That's generic, but how we operate is that we embed one of our female agents as a wife, a girlfriend, as, a close person to the target, and use that person to get the intel.
If you and I were in the writer's room and someone pitched this to us, I'd say, that's a very good premise.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with that. I think the way that they pulled off the premise was a little bit clumsy, and maybe that's why a lot of the reviews are a little bit middling, because that's where a lot of my complaints come in. Even though I loved watching every episode, it was hard to turn it off. There were times I'm kind of like, yeah, but why is this person doing this? That kind of stuff really bothered me in a show that seemed to be, or trying to be, like as authentic as possible.
So let's talk about it, right? So there are two characters that were most inconsistent with what they were trying to play their characters as. Zoe Saldana's Joe.
Yeah.
And Lesla Oliveira's Cruz. Let's start with Zoe Saldana. And we talked about this when we did this as our Streamer Skip episode.
Yeah.
On one hand, she's this hard as nails, the mission comes first, consequences be damned, hardcore military person.
I like that character. She plays it great. I think she should stay as that character.
100%. Because this is where the problem came with her, is the moment she was out of the office and she was back at home or dealing with any of her personal life stuff, all of that kind of fell apart. And it was not convincing.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I was just going to say, it didn't seem believable. Nothing about her marriage seemed believable. The attraction didn't seem either way. What did she think about this guy? And what did the guy see in her? The family stuff didn't seem believable. It was unnecessary as well. I wanted to see that when she was off base, she had nothing to do with her time.
Yeah.
She was living like George Clooney style up in the air in like this very small rented furnished apartment. Like all she had was like a pair of like workout clothes. She didn't know how to cook. She didn't know how to clean. She didn't know anything except fighting. And she was out of her element when she was off mission. That's what I wanted to see.
Interestingly enough, I watched Black Widow last night.
Yeah.
What if her personal life had been a plant? Like, what if it was all fake and orchestrated, where she marries this guy unbeknownst to him as a cover story? And she doesn't actually love the guy, and she's using him purely so that if anyone does any digging on her, they find this perfect, like, oh, how can this woman be anything but a translator for the UN? She's married to a surgeon. She's got 2 little girls. That can't be, she can't be a hardcore missions operative.
I mean,
I would have bought that more, I would have bought it even more if, for example, Neil was in on it and that this was just a marriage of convenience to both of them. I think that would have been absolutely fine. Anything else would have been okay for me, because this didn't feel like it worked. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like it was a real deal. I felt nothing. Do they actually love each other or not?
Yeah.
The one time it felt real to me was when he calls her on mission and she snaps at him in that last episode, right? Which is exactly what we talked about, was how good would that have been, where she's like, when I'm on base, my time is my time alone. You cannot call me for anything.
Let me just say something. Why do you have your personal mobile with you, not on vibrate? I mean, come on. Like Nicole Kidman, I'll get to her in a moment, was right, which is like, you know better than this. Put the mobile away.
Yeah.
Like this is kid stuff. But when you say this about the marriage to Neil, compare that with the Nicole Kidman marriage, which I think is exceptionally done. 100% believable that, like, hey, they're out of love. Maybe at one point they were in love. They're maybe not even friends, but they are political allies.
Yeah.
And they're something to their marriage, right? That is 100% believable.
A marriage of convenience, which may have started out as a marriage of love, but now the only reason they're sticking together is because they can both use each other. One trading for the private sector, one for the public sector.
Yes.
Phenomenal because, and this is cynical of me to say, but I feel like that reflects a lot of real life marriages around the world.
I totally agree. The way that they treat each other, it's exceptionally done.
To the point where they're even negotiating on dinner times. Yeah. And she was just like, I'll have my secretary call your secretary and sort it out. Like it didn't, you could tell that these guys have known each other and have been together for a very long time. And that, again, this is very cynical, but there's no love lost between them anymore. Now it's just like, okay, we're married because in DC, it helps us to be married to each other. Yeah.
Okay, that's issue number one. I guess my other issue is with Cruz, who I don't actually dislike as an actress.
Oh, not at all.
Personally, I would not have cast her in this role for a few obvious reasons. One, she's supposed to be posing kind of as an Arab. She's not at all an Arab, and even her name is not Arab. But they say kind of, I thought somewhere in the beginning that she does have some Arabic training. Neither here nor there. When we get introduced to her, she's supposed to be wealthy and she's supposed to be shopping in Kuwait. Remember, they give her a brand name handbag.
Yeah.
She's dressed nice. She's supposed to be like in a jewelry store, you know, to bump into Aaliyah, right?
Yeah.
And the overall impression is Aaliyah is very, very wealthy. Cruz is supposed to be pretending to be kind of wealthy to kind of fit into that, right?
Yeah.
Then when she goes to visit Aaliyah in the US, which I think it's totally weird that this happened in the US, but let's go on. They give Cruz like a Mercedes. Not a great Mercedes, but just kind of like a Mercedes, right? And then as we get to meet more and more of Cruz like is very open with Aaliyah. Like, I'm super poor. I've never been in a Range Rover. I've never been to like a spa. I've never had a massage. I've never done this. She's never dressing very well. Honestly, she looks like she just walked off a military base in like crop tops and like fatigues. I really don't like how they portrayed the Cruz character at all. Say nothing of the fact that she got the crap beaten out of her by Joe and her team. And for the rest of the movie, we have to watch her walking around with black eyes and cuts on her nose and face. I found that whole thing to be super unbelievable for someone who's supposed to be fitting in and being a plant. Am I wrong?
I agree with a lot of that. They did cover a little bit of their basis because she goes out of her way to say that it's my uncle who's rich. He only gave me that kind of look and some of that money to help me find a husband. It was a very weak cover, but at least they gave it cover. Fine. So I kind of like, all right, that's fine. They kind of ticked that excuse. The issues I had were this. We're introduced to Cruz as this worker at like a Subway sandwich shop, ex-stripper who's in an abusive relationship.
Yes.
She beats the crap out of her abusive boyfriend and is on the run and takes salvation in an Army or a Navy like recruitment office.
Yes.
And because of that, she decides that maybe the Army is the place for me to go. She gets into the Army. We're told she excels in every way, shape, or form, not just in terms of her physical scores, but her mental too. So problem number one, all we ever see of her is her physical scores, in the sense that every instance of her superiority is highlighted purely in her physical attributes.
Right.
She gets her ass kicked. She kicks a lot of ass. She defends herself. 10 out of 10 believable that she is the top 1% in the military for that. But we're also told she can speak 4 languages. She's supposed to be super smart. She speaks Arabic fluently. Yet over 8 episodes, we don't see any intelligence from her. We don't see any Arabic from her. We don't see any other languages from her. Nothing.
No Arabic ever, except then in the last episode when Aaliyah's fiance says to the bodyguard,
yes, that's right.
If I take her to the airport, my little dove won't spread her legs on the wedding evening. And she understands that perfectly.
And she replies back in English.
Yes.
Not even in Arabic, which would have been a killer line. But in English, she says that she's probably not going to open her legs to you anyway.
Yeah.
That was the only instance we see of her at least understanding Arabic explicitly.
Given her background, she was a stripper, nothing wrong with that, who worked in a hamburger joint. Where exactly in that lifetime did she learn any other languages, much less Arabic?
And if you're telling me she learned Arabic and all these other languages and these mental skills while she was training at the army,
no way.
I will suspend belief to say that, you know what, if there's one organization that could force you to learn these languages, it's probably the army.
Yeah.
But then show us.
I agree.
You know, one of the strongest things that always stays in my mind when I'm writing is something that you said a couple episodes ago or 100 episodes ago.
Oh, thank you.
You are always better off showing us and not telling us about a character's ending.
Yes.
They spent 8 episodes showing us she was physically capable. They couldn't spend 1 episode, an hour, showing us that she's mentally capable?
In fact, if you didn't know better, you think she's a little bit mentally weak. Jo does not break character. Jo is very clear. She's all about business, always mission-oriented, no matter what collateral damage is happening around her, right? The same thing with that other dude, Kyle, right? Cruz is a very weak character. She's falling in love with her target, and then she doesn't know if she can do it, and then blah, blah, blah. She gets the date rape drug, and then like this is happening. Like, she is full of drama and problems.
For someone who's supposed to be as tough as she is, and for someone who's supposed to be so laser focused on the mission, she very quickly loses sight of all of that, despite being in a traumatic position where she's drugged at the same party where Aaliyah is.
Yeah.
She still falls for Aaliyah. She still has some kind of romantic entanglement with her up to the night before her wedding, by the way, and she lets that cloud her judgment. Come on. At least in that first episode when they introduced her, they could have said, yeah, her psych profile is all over the place because of this. We don't know if we can trust her or not. They didn't even lay the groundwork. They just told us, they hammered in, oh, she is the top 1% of the 1%. Well, if you're the top 1% of the 1%, a one-night fling doesn't mean anything to you.
I mean, especially, not to like pile on strippers, but you would expect that she has an emotional detachment and doesn't fall in love early, right? Strippers of all people, again, not to pile on strippers, but are probably the profession most known to demonstrate affection for the end goal, and they don't really mean that affection, right?
Of course.
Of all really the professions, you'd think that she'd be a little bit more astute at this. Maybe part of the problem I had was that Aaliyah is so kind of bold and pathetic in how quickly she comes on to Cruz. It could have been maybe a little bit more compelling if Aaliyah was just played it straight. And Cruz somehow was like, hey, this is a person I'm supposed to be friends with. And Cruz started to fall for her, being like, wow, this is a really sweet girl. She is really nice. She is really considerate. She is really caring. She doesn't deserve this. And Cruz started to kind of fall for her. But it was just the way that Aaliyah kind of threw herself at Cruz. And again, I'm sure that Laisla is a very nice lady and actress. In this story, there's nothing attractive about her at all. She doesn't dress nice. She doesn't act nice. She's got 2 black eyes and a busted up face. Under what circumstances are you really physically attracted to that person? She looks like garbage, honestly, in every episode. She doesn't come from a good family. She doesn't know how to act. She doesn't get along with anybody. If she knew Arabic, she should have been speaking Arabic to like all of her friends at the pool. And she should have been like this chameleon that's like so charismatic, like Brad Pitt Spy Game or whatever. She doesn't do that at all. For someone who's trying to fit in and integrate, all she did was kind of like alienate all the people around Aaliyah. The concept of the Lioness program, brilliant. You and I are fully on board.
Execution, 1 out of 10.
Absolutely 1 out of 10. Really, it couldn't be weirder. From the geography, like why are they like just kind of hanging out in the US? Then they're going to the Hamptons. Like they met in Kuwait. That's so random. Like the whole thing was random, right?
I would have believed it way more if this was done like they met in the Middle East and then they went to like Cyprus, or they went to Malta, or they went to some like
Marbella is a good place. It didn't have to be the
Marbella,
wedding.
Ibiza makes sense, right? All of these places which are like, again, I don't want to stereotype, but kind of known for having a lot of Arabic party animals go to.
Yeah. I felt like they didn't have an Arabic consultant on this team. Like they didn't have someone who spent time in the Middle East, who knew like Middle East families and values and women, who could say like, look, I understand what you're trying to do. This has 0% realism in it. Please just adjust it a little bit like this. You and I picked up really quick, and that's because we're like Middle East based. But for me, it was really off-putting how bad that was done.
You know, the frank reality is it wouldn't have cost more. Maybe, in fact, it would have cost less.
Yeah.
You could have shot anywhere. A generic beach town resort could be kind of done anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, that's the general feeling. Let's talk about that penultimate and ultimate episode.
Okay, tell me about the last episode. What do you think was the emotional arc of Cruz? Do you think she handled it well? And do we think that the right person died?
I loved the political machinations.
Yes.
Back home in the US. That felt 100% real.
I totally agree with you. That deserved to be a bigger storyline because I felt like that was the nugget of this whole show, which is someone's on the kill list. They're a bad guy. We should get rid of them versus, but if you get rid of them, it's going to make a bigger problem. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. It's going to destabilize oil prices, destabilize the region, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That would have been a way more interesting B plot than any of the stuff we saw with Zoe Saldana's family.
Absolutely. It also goes to show that, in theory, the Secretary of State and the other people around Morgan Freeman were really the people that had a better grasp on the big picture and what should be done. And yet it's kind of the trigger-happy people on the ground who were deciding the outcome of this.
To be fair, I mean, Nicole Kidman and Michael Kelly both said, hey, if you didn't want this to happen, you should never have put this guy on the kill list. And not just on the kill list, but number 1 on the kill list.
That's a very good point by Michael Kelly. I mean, that's the best counter argument, which is, hey, I'm doing my job. You gave me a target. I got the target. Don't get mad at me now because it's not what you actually wanted.
In fact, how cool would it have been if you find out that it was Nicole Kidman's husband who was pulling strings to try to get him off the list because he understood that not only would he destabilize the political relationships, but again, he didn't care about the politics. He was more interested in the fiscal side of it, right?
Or the opposite, that he's the guy who convinced Nicole Kidman to get him on the list.
Yeah, right. And you find out that, you know, he's all of a sudden he's shorted all these shares in oil and he becomes a billionaire overnight all of a sudden. That's way more A, plausible, B, interesting story arc. That's the B plot, especially one that can effectively become the A plot in season 2.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was fascinating. And I thought that the way that he explained it, Nicole Kidman's husband, I thought it was really, really interesting, where he was talking about, you know, who controls the stock exchange, right?
It was such a subtle scene. That one alone was super subtle, but so powerful. I was so impressed with that. So anyway, I was really impressed with the stuff that was going on in the Situation Room back in DC. I thought that was very fascinating. I thought the on-ground mission seemed super anticlimactic. Cruz has the confrontation with Aaliyah's fiance.
Which I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I didn't see why that guy was all up in her face.
So I have a problem with both sides of that conversation. That I agree, like, she was just a guest. She came in. She should have been able to be with the guests. He didn't need to pull her aside and do the interrogation. The flip side of it, because we were introduced to him briefly, he was just sitting by his laptop by the pool.
Yeah.
He was just very quiet. We didn't get any sense that he was aggressive or abusive or anything like that. Of course, I didn't like his behavior. He was an asshole. But I didn't like the way that Cruz was responding to that. She didn't try to like de-escalate the situation and like, you know, make it seem like it was just like kind of lady stuff. And she was rude and she was equally asshole back to him. She had a mission to do. She should have been de-escalating the situation, not like goading him on, right?
You know what would have been interesting and what would have made that okay, or at least more plausible, is if he was the one who was trying to chase after Cruz on the side back in Long Island instead of his friend.
Yeah.
And he's got a chip on his shoulder because she rebuffed his advances.
That's right.
Then he kind of figures out that there may be something more in terms of a romantic side with his fiance and her. Yeah. And now he's got two chips on his shoulders. Not only did she rebuff my advances, but she's potentially taking away my fiance from me. That's it. I'm going to take care of this while I can.
Yeah.
That would have been at least more understandable. But at the end of the day, your point is still valid. If your mission is to go after this girl's father, you are jeopardizing the whole thing because you think you've got carte blanche to do anything at this wedding just because you had a one-night stand with this woman. That doesn't work.
I agree. If I were that dude, I mean, of course, you never hit a woman, but like after I had that confrontation with her, no way would I let her stay at the wedding. No way.
And to be fair, even the guard was like, it's better we take you to the airport.
Yeah.
That should have been the end of it.
100%. Of course, I would never hit someone first, but like the way that she spoke to him, like, hey, just try it. Like, I'll wipe your skinny ass all over the floor. Like, someone speaks to me like that at my wedding, no way. Yeah. You're gone. I'm absolutely not dealing with that stress or that nonsense.
Yeah.
So then everything is kind of like, okay. We find out that Aaliyah's dad apparently is coming to the wedding.
Yeah.
Aaliyah and Cruz have a quick kiss. And then Cruz, of course, like, I don't know, feels guilty or she's conflicted with her feelings. So she says she's going to get a bottle of water. She somehow goes to the kitchen, which is apparently a co-ed kitchen now, after being secluded on the women's side. She goes to the kitchen. She has a conversation with the dude. And here's the crux of the question. Is that Aaliyah's father?
So for the listeners, we had an offline chat about what we thought about that.
Yeah.
I thought about it more. I think that is her dad. I think that despite the fact that Aaliyah went out of her way to say that her dad is quiet, etc., I think they went out of the way to confirm that that was him by thermal imaging. And I get that they could do the bait and switch. They're like, aha, but it wasn't. It was a body double the whole time. I don't think they're going to bother with that. I think there's enough juice in the orange for next season that they don't need to introduce this as a potential wrinkle.
From a storytelling perspective, I agree with you. I think they're going to make it be her dad. However, they set it up very poorly because she went out of her way to say her dad is very quiet, doesn't talk. And this guy was very gregarious, charismatic, chatty, friendly, right? We're almost led to believe he's really not a bad guy. Is this the guy that they want to kill so badly? He seems to be an okay guy, right? He's talking about gelato and blah, blah, blah. The line that I keep going to is that, and I'll take a bottle of water for your daughter. So that means she believed that was the father. She probably was basing that. She obviously had a picture of the guy before. That seems to confirm it for me. But he never says, yeah, my daughter. He just says, oh, you're Aaliyah's friend from the US. And then, of course, everything goes and he obviously gets killed. I don't think there's any question that he died in that, right? We saw him not just stabbed many times, but we kind of saw his throat slit. I think he's dead. Fiance, I guess, is dead also.
By the way, that's the other problem I've had. Why are they only now? And why is he the one running the image search? If she was a potential security risk, like this would have been done back in Long Island or in Texas, right? When they first came.
Yeah. I mean, look, do a background search, but I find it very difficult that they did like a second search or a third search and only then did they find it. Like it should have come up right away or not at all, right? It would have been better if he would have been like rummaging through her suitcase or something like that, right?
And
to me, that would have made
like a transponder that she wasn't supposed to have or something like that. Or like the tickets to an Orioles game, something out of place, but just generic enough.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if he was like rummaging through her suitcase. Whenever you have a technology solution to like a storyline, it comes across a little bit flat. I thought that wasn't great, you know? Anyway, so put that aside. What did you think of the fight scene and the escape and all the commotion?
That's what I meant by anticlimactic. It just felt like a standard one-woman super cop who gets rescued and saved by the team, and it kind of goes off flawlessly. So the flawlessly part, I actually liked. I would have thought it was a little contrived for there to be like an extended firefight going on, just because these are supposed to be like special operatives. That's the whole point of this, is these guys are like the best of the best.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think it's good that they didn't have to include, a missile strike from the carrier.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by it was too anticlimactic. It was anticlimactic in the sense that, I mean, one of the craziest things they could have done, which would have made it all the more, at least emotionally exciting, is on her escape, Aaliyah catches her.
Oh, man. You want to hear my rewrite?
Yeah, go.
In the kitchen, rather than the fiance running into the kitchen screaming, Marine, Marine, which I thought was stupid.
Also dumb, yeah.
She should have been having this really decent chat with a guy. And we should have thought, like, he's not a bad guy. Like, the audience should be like, are you sure they've got the right guy? Is this just set up by, like, Nicole Kidman's husband? Maybe he's just really an oil trader. Maybe he's not a bad guy, right? He should have come across as so decent and sweet and then said something like, I'm sorry I won't be seeing you for the wedding tomorrow. And she's like, oh, why? I've got to catch a flight in 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. And then she grabs a knife and she's like, it's now or never. She stabs the hell out of him, slits his throat. She hits her transponder, which is very subtle, by the way. And she's got blood all over herself and she's running out. And then you're right. She either runs into Aaliyah and then she's got to make a choice. And she just throws Aaliyah into the pool or knocks her unconscious or something. Instead of that extended firefight, they extract her. And that's why she's so freaked out. She's like, I killed someone that I think is actually pretty good. And Aaliyah knows I did it. Or let's say that she was actually kind of friendly with one of Aaliyah's bodyguards. Like they could have had this story throughout. Everyone was kind of mean to her. And the one bodyguard was always kind of like decent to her and opened doors and said, hey, you've got this. You'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. She ran into that person on the way out with blood on her clothes. And she had to kill that guy. And that's where she's like, oh, man, he didn't deserve that. He was collateral damage. Then she gets extracted and then she punches Joe on the boat. Either of those, I think, is better than the weird kind of firefight that was, as you said, anticlimactic, never going anywhere,
Yeah.
So what's going to happen in season 2? Is Aaliyah going to be now the kingpin? Is it her mom? Is her dad alive? What do you think?
Part of me actually hopes that they kind of step away from Aaliyah's family altogether.
Okay.
And they focus on the next mission that requires the Lioness group. And they realize that they need Cruz, or they want Cruz because she is the best of the best. And so they, spend the first 2 episodes convincing her.
Yeah.
The team gets in trouble and she's kind of forced to get back in there.
Yeah.
And then maybe the twist at the end of the second season is that we find out that Aaliyah's family is now the ones who are financing these bad guys.
Yeah.
and that sets up a showdown for season 3.
Yeah.
Or maybe, she tries to go back to Aaliyah to try to convince her to run away and leave that life that she hates anyway and start on her own with Cruz. Yeah. The first one for me is the best option. If they continue this escalation, that's possible, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it because Aaliyah doesn't seem like the type who would.
There is something, though, about shows where the good-hearted character turns into like an animal, Like if Aaliyah can really turn into like, just like you said, I think you said it to me a while ago, like, what if Aaliyah is just like, she's identified now who is on the Lioness team, and it's her goal to just one by one start picking off their families, right?
Yeah.
Cruz is just off the grid. Joe's like, look, it's just, I lost my husband, like everyone is gone, like you've got to come back. We've got to fight Aaliyah together.
You know her better than I do. You know her better than anybody else. Yeah. You've had intimate times with her.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in terms of physical. I mean like emotional.
Yeah.
You're the only one who can find her, and you're the only one who can put an end to this.
Or Aaliyah is kind of like benched by her family, and Cruz has to go break her out because maybe Aaliyah knows where all the assets are hidden or can identify everybody else. She'll become like the CIA asset, right? And Cruz goes to like break her out of her family in-home imprisonment. I have to say, I'm more excited for season 2 after the finale than I was probably mid-series. But I do think that high level, it's a great storyline. I think the casting is actually quite great, but there's some little mistakes in the storyline that I hope are cleaned up in season 2.
Yeah, and maybe not even mistakes, but like, let's shift the focus away from non-operative stuff. And if you're going to do that, focus on the more political elements.
Yeah.
Those to me are equally, if not more exciting. Again, I could not care less about Zoe Saldana's personal life in the show.
Or in real life. I agree with you. Like, if you're going to write in a family angle, have the family be interesting, but I'm really not interested in just problems. Nicole Kidman's family is interesting because there's plot there. I'm really not interested in watching a family drama. If you want a family drama, there's a totally different show for that. I don't want to find out about her marital problems. I could care less about her bratty kid. Honestly, her kid is super annoying.
Yeah.
Nothing sympathetic about that character at all. And even if there was, I'm not interested in watching a teenage girl recover from a car accident at all. It's not the show that I want to see.
Just awful.
If you look at Taylor Sheridan and Yellowstone didn't really have any kids, although I'm not entirely sure about that. They had Beth when she was very young.
Well, they have the grandson,
who's not at all annoying.
They used him as one plot device as being kidnapped.
Yeah, he was kidnapped. And they have that, I don't know if he was like a homeless kid, like that kid that they took in,
that's
right?
Beth and her husband, like the adopted boy, yeah.
And again, he wasn't really that bad. He was never really misbehaving. They actually, in fact, kind of like showed him getting on board and being a hard worker, and right? This is, I think, new territory for Taylor Sheridan. It's not his MO to have like some bratty teenage girl. Given the state of the writer's strike and the actor's strike, we're not going to see season 2 until 2025, huh?
Most likely. I mean, the way things have been progressing, if we're lucky, the writer's strike ends by the end of this year. If we're lucky.
I'm just thinking out loud. Does this mean like on Netflix, we're going to see a lot more of these British comedies, Australian comedies, more of these French, Spanish thrillers? That's the only new content we're going to see, right?
Yeah, those are the unions that aren't affected. Of course, also Netflix earlier this year signed that massive deal with Korean filmmakers. We're going to see more, but I think the fruits of that labor are not going to come out until the earliest, the end of next year.
Thankfully, we've got sports now. We've got Premier Football and all the British football. We've got American football. We're going to have basketball. I don't think we've got any Olympics this year. But thankfully, we've got that to fill in the void, because I think the next few months for entertainment are going to be really, really thin. At least the next 6 months, no matter when the strike ends.
Yeah, because it'll take time for them to ramp up again.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your final rating on Lioness?
I am giving this a must subscribe.
Oh.
Yeah, you can live your life without seeing the show, but I have to say, there is enough unique stuff in here. There is enough political intrigue, and I'm going to stress on that. You should see this for the political intrigue, not for the action. If you're seeing this for the action, I think you'll be disappointed. If you're seeing it for the political intrigue, I think it will pay off. I enjoyed Nicole Kidman. I love Stephanie Noor. I like Thad Luckingbill is Kyle. I thought, honestly, the casting was great. Absolutely love it. I don't like the dramatic stuff, and I don't think that the action was great, but the political intrigue makes it a must subscribe for me.
So the show is still a mooch for me. I did enjoy it. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it. I just think that the focus of the B plot was in the wrong place.
True.
I think that if the focus shifted over to Nicole Kidman's side or to the politics side, I would have been way more invested. And to be honest, there's plenty of time. I think they can pivot for season 2. And I hope there is a season 2. So,
me too. Where can everybody leave their comments if they want to agree, disagree, and so forth with us?
Absolutely. So if you liked Lioness or hated Lioness, you can reach out to us, tweet at us at FNS Podcast, DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast, email us aloha at filmsandstuffpodcast.com, or leave a comment below, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell.
Hit the bell. Okay. That is it for this episode of Films and Stuff, where we broke down the last episode of Lioness. We are hoping that there is a season 2, and if so, we will be there every step of the way. Until then, we wish everyone a great day ahead. Thank you, Pete.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
I know.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.